All right, everyone, welcome to After the Scales. It is episode 103, presented by DJD Graphics. I am Shaun Blight, along with Jacob Dove, and it's a big week for racing in Southern Ontario specifically. We're going to be talking a lot about super modifieds today, and our first guest out of Kitchener, Ontario, ADRIAN STAHLE, who is going to make his super modified debut on Saturday at Flamboro, and but before that, he's going to kick off his 2026 racing season with the crate sprints at Ohsweken. Can't wait for that either. So, Adrian, how's it going today?
It's going good. We were in the shop a little bit tonight, doing some work on the sprint car, and it seems like we've been putting a lot more effort into the super mod stuff so far, but that's expected, I guess.
Yeah, and we want to get to the super modified stuff because that's going to be heavy on our content this week. But I'd be remiss if we didn't start off talking about the crate sprint since that's first on the docket this week. How's the sprint car looking? How's it feeling? And what are you expecting Friday night from the 2026 crate sprint season?
Well, the car's looking better than ever. We just got it back from graphics, and we're excited to show everyone our new wrap on our new look this year. Totally changed it up from what we're used to having. Everyone's known us as having a white car, so be sure to check that out. Hopefully we have a smooth night. I really just want to finish all the laps, try and get the best finish we can possibly get, and keep everything in one piece. That would be my goal.
So, Adrian, tell our viewers kind of your background, how you got into racing, what made you choose the sprint car route, and obviously now getting to the super modifieds.
Yeah, awesome. So to be honest, my mom got me into the racing. She used to work with a guy, and he said, "Come on out, check out the go-karts." So I ended up getting into go-karting. Did that for a number of years. Moved into Can-Am TQ midgets. Did that for probably 10 or so years. And that was kind of the shift into sprint cars. And that kind of like followed suit, following Mac DeMann and a number of other guys. So we did the sprint cars for a few years, and now we get our opportunity to run for Brad Lichy in the number 74 Super Modified. So, I mean, I grew up going to Ohsweken with my dad. My uncle is big into it. We've always known the Lichys, and it's just it's awesome to get in the car, and they're bad to the bone. They're awesome.
Yeah, I grew up watching super modifieds, and it's so cool. Like, so for those that maybe don't know, it's been, I think, about 40 years since the super modifieds have been to Flamboro, and that's a track way back where they would kind of first come to Canada. The Didero family, which is synonymous with super modifieds, kind of founded Flamboro Speedway. My dad, when he was a kid, went to Flamboro to watch super modifieds and has passed it on to me. So this 74 that you're driving for Brad Lichy, it's been driven by Johnny Benson. I saw Tony Stewart in it once. Brad Lichy has at least 2 championships in ISMA with Dave McKnight and then his son Mike Lichy. So talk specifically about how this opportunity came about and what it means for you to get behind that car specifically.
It started off with bugging Brad Lichy for quite a while. We've known them for years. My uncle raced with him back in the day and got him to drive some of his vintage modifieds and stuff like that. And I guess we just wore on him a little bit. Maybe it was perfect timing with Benson retiring from the super modifieds, but he finally said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I showed up to his shop the next night, and I was all in from then on out. And you know what? The guys are great guys. They have so much fun in the shop, and I literally want to spend like probably every night there during the week just because it's always a hangout. We get so much stuff done on the cars, learn so much, and like they're just smart guys. Like Brad's been around the super modifieds for years. He's got unlimited amount of stories that he could tell you about the cars and over the years, and I'm just hoping I can represent the guys well, try and show well for the 74 car, and maybe make those guys happy.
There's probably going to be a few people in the stands on Saturday at Flamboro that have probably never seen a super modified before. It's been a while since they've come up to this area, and they've been coming to Delaware now for a couple of years. But um, for those that maybe aren't familiar, I know this question has been asked and answered different ways at different times, but what is a super modified?
It's a big block Chevy hanging off of a tube chassis for the most part, an open wheel car with 18-inch slick on the right rear, 900 horsepower. Um, that's as much as I know about them. Like, I know that I've been told they're a midget, but a lot bigger and a lot more horsepower. And honestly, I got to drive it a couple weekends ago for the first time, and I was really surprised with how forgiving the cars were. And it honestly did feel like a midget out there. It just obviously just had so much horsepower. Um, yeah, I don't know. I know Brad's told me that he's had a number of NASCAR drivers that he wanted to put in the car, and they were all telling him that he's crazy. He's like, I'm not getting in that thing. And just getting able to do some practice laps, like I had so much fun. If that was the most super modified racing we get to do, that'll even be enough for me, like lifelong dream right there.
So, Adrian, I've been kind of bringing this topic up here to a lot of our guests, especially, a guy that's dabbling with the dirt racing and asphalt racing, and just the cost of racing in general. It just seems like everything's going up. Fuel costs are high. So we've seen some, drivers kind of taking a step back. So what do you think, the most important thing to do? I know fan wise, it seems like there's a lot of fans that are still coming and supporting these racetracks, but it's going to get scary here soon. Hopefully no more, tracks shut down or more guys have to kind of take a step back. And really, what can we do on our part to kind of just promote the racing more? I mean, we have our podcast, so we have guys like you come on, but really just try to promote, the sport of racing. That way we can see, a sustainable future for our sport.
Yeah, that's a good point because you see it dwindling, I guess, in some aspects. I think we need to like target the younger generation, like try and get kids interested in it. And again, like I grew up going to the races, uncles were in racing, so I kind of grew up with it and I always enjoyed it. And there's a lot of people that don't really know about the sport that I feel like if you could bring your friend out to the races some night, they would want to stick with it forever almost, And I know it's different from a racing point compared to watching, but there's still so much of a family dynamic at the track, and I don't know. I always think that the stories some of the old boys got they're so cool to hear, and I mean that's what gets it for me. I'd like to bring out some young guys too, and just kind of have them in my pit. Maybe they don't know exactly what they're doing, but they're there. They're getting to experience all the sights and sounds, and maybe they'll create like a long fan for life, right?
Now, every race car driver wants to win, right? But what are some of your term and long-term goals that you have? Maybe for the crate sprint car and the super modified. I'm sure consistency, trying to do your best every time you hit the track.
Yeah, of course. I would love to get more top fives and top tens this year. We have one feature win in the crate sprints. I've always seemed to struggle when the track gets slick, and so I'd love to pick our program up there and just try and be more competitive all around. Like I don't need to win races, to be honest. I'm not that kind of guy, but I want to finish good as often as I can, and I want to keep my car one piece. And I forgot the second part of that question, but yeah, I'm more of a guy that I gotta go to work every day, and if I want to work race on the weekends, I gotta have my car there and pretty much ready to go. So I don't need to be tearing that thing up every week, and so I'm just looking for consistency.
Last year's champion, Jacob Dykstra, he's moved up to the 360s. You mentioned Mac DeMann earlier, who's going to be returning to crate sprints. Liam Martin is returning to crate sprints. It's already been one of the most competitive series that I saw last year in all my travels. It was must watch for me. I loved the series. I love the young drivers that it's promoting, and yet the veteran drivers that are up there running with consistency every week. Look ahead to the series in general. The Action Sprint Tour is back this year to give you guys more touring abilities. Talk about the growth of the series and what you're expecting out of it this year.
Yeah, I mean, the growth of the series is huge. I remember when they had, I think, 12 cars to start, and they had that for a few years, and it's blowing up. Like any given night, we can have 35 to 40 cars just trying to make the race. And that in itself is impressive. And like you said, we have a lot of talented drivers, a lot of young drivers that are really good, and pretty much all throughout the field, everyone's good. And I know you got like your top 5 guys that seem to be really good every week, but there's honestly probably 20 guys that could win a race at any time. It just depends on how their night goes, and how they get through their heat race. I'm really impressed with the drivers that I got to race against. I was kind of excited to see some guys move on, but then, like you said, we're getting Liam Martin back, and so it's not going to get easier. It's just going to be a little bit of a new dynamic.
Now, Adrian, you talked about being, a hard worker, trying to be consistent with your program in both forms of racing. So when it's all said and done, one day in the future, when you decide to maybe hang it up, like what's one thing you want people to remember your racing career as?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm kind of known around the track, I think, to not be happy, but I think I'm always look like that because I just want to try and do as good as I can, and we're racing out of here with just my dad and my. It's a lot for just 2 guys to do, and I guess maybe if everyone just looked back and like, hey, those guys were competitive. They ran with what they got. I mean, maybe we don't win all the time, but just that we're there. We're trying our best, trying to show well, trying to have a nice car every week, just that sort of thing.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to Saturday as well with the super modified 75 laps, 10,000 to win, which is pretty good. Really stout field of cars coming up this way. Just added Tyler Thompson, who's a 2-time classic winner. He was just added to the official entry list today. What can fans expect out of the guys that are coming up from New York and Ohio?
I think fans can expect a hell of a show. I don't know how many, or I don't know how all these cars are going to fit on that track,
Yeah.
but it's going to be exciting, that's for sure. We went out there for practice day, and we had so many people come up to us just in awe of the car. And you mentioned it earlier, not many people know what these cars are. And I think that's because they don't really race in Canada too often. But I think there's going to be a lot of people impressed. I think the race is going to go a lot better than maybe some people are thinking with the track size and the number of cars. Like I think we're at 22 cars committed so far. So we maybe even have a few more to show up on race day. I don't know what to expect for the 75 laps. That's 50 more than I've ever done, but it's going to be good.
Well, Adrian, we're really looking forward to seeing how you do. And if there's anybody out there that you want to thank, you mentioned about you and your dad working hard there. So, and maybe any sponsors that help you out, and just anybody that can reach out to you and maybe support your racing program.
Yeah, I got to thank my dad first and foremost. Our sponsors, Ackland Insurance. Nathan always helps us out whenever he can, so I really appreciate that. Westex Powder Coating. Look them up if you're in any kind of powder coating needs in the KW area. Larka Custom Machining. They're out of Cambridge. They're great for any machine work you need done. Paco Transportation. I got to thank Brad because none of this super modified stuff would happen without him. And Larry out of Orangeville. He lets me run his TQ midget on off weekends. And without these guys, I wouldn't be racing anyway. So, I mean, Thanks to all of them. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, come by our pit at Ohsweken and say hi and look for us out on the track.
Well, Adrian, we're really grateful for your time. It's been a good. I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but it's been a good week for you. If you are, you got the Kitchener Rangers 1 win away from a trip to the Memorial Cup. You got your super modified debut this week, kicking off the crate sprint season. So a lot going on. And if you can't be at the track Friday, you can catch the action for free on YouTube. Search for GeForce TV. Adam, Greg, and Clinton will have the call, and they do a great job as always. So you want to tune in for that. And make sure to get out to Flamboro Speedway on Saturday. It's going to be an awesome show, and we want to make sure these guys come back next year and in the future. So we pack the grandstands, we can make it happen. So, Adrian, thanks a lot, man, and good luck this year, and good luck this weekend.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so we want to thank Adrian for coming on. It's going to be an exciting weekend for him, and I can't wait to see it in person, how he wheels the super modified for the first time. What a thrill that's going to be. We wanted to get into our Open Red segment where we just kind of shoot the shit and talk about any racing news that caught our eye this past weekend. I had the thrill to be at Williams Grove this weekend, and normally the racing at Williams Grove can be pretty, I don't know, follow the leader, I guess is a nice way to say it. And Friday night was a real treat with Sheldon Hodenshield and Kasey Kahne swapping the lead, going back and forth before Kasey Kahne got his first ever World of Outlaws win. And what a cool thing to be able to say. I was at his first NASCAR win in 2005, and who would have thought 20 years later, 21 years later, he's picking up his first World of Outlaws win. It was an unbelievable scene. You had fans just charging onto the track out of the grandstands and out of the infield to get on the front stretch to be a part of that. Pretty awesome moment to be there, man.
Hats off to Kasey Kahne. That was awesome. Obviously, no doubt that Anthony Macri 39M car is unbelievable. They got a good team over there. Everybody knows it's good equipment, but it's hard to just hump in somebody else's equipment and be able to win. I mean, we've seen Lance DeWeese get a win in the 39M when Macri was on leave with that car. So, yeah, just a testament to show how good that car is, how good the crew and Kasey still had enough in him. You know, a lot of people were doubting him, and it was just a good sight to see. Definitely a feel-good story over the weekend. And I know David Gravel spoiled the show the following night, but still, you know, Kasey did really good again. And yeah, it was just nice to see some new faces up there, and even a good showing from the posse. I know you're talking about the Beer Hill giving crap to Gravel, which is always cool to see the Outlaws versus posse rivalry. So yeah, shout out to Kasey Kahne getting that win.
Yeah, if you've never been to Williams Grove for one of these big World of Outlaw races, you really have to make a point to go. There's no atmosphere in sprint car racing like going to Pennsylvania, especially Williams Grove, on a Friday or Saturday night. And I've never even done the National Open. It's going to be on my calendar this year. I can't wait to see what that's like, because everyone around me was just telling me, like, if you think this is a big deal, wait till you see the National Open. So I can't even imagine what that's like. Wanted to give a shout out to our buddy Ashton Torgerson, who, after being let go, or I guess after his car owner decided to park the car and then go crew for somebody else, Ashton made the show both nights in the Kyle Moody 99 and put it in the dash and finished 8th on Saturday, on probably the most technical track that sprint cars race on. And he just went out and just kind of proved a point that he can do it. So hats off to him. I know the Moody guys were really happy to have him, and big thanks to Kyle Moody for helping our buddy Ashton out.
Yeah, definitely want to back that up and say shout out to Kyle Moody for giving Torgerson a ride. Very last minute. Obviously, nobody wants to lose a ride, but it seems like the trend here lately. We've seen Buddy Thiel and Greg Wheeler part ways, and we had Skylar G come on, and he's now running the 16C, and now Three Stooges Racing and the number 51 part ways with Scott Boguski. So, yeah, a lot of movers and shakers. Obviously, the Torgerson deal came at a shock. I know, stay tuned. You know, Shaun's been kind of keeping people updated on After the Scales media. So make sure to check out our Facebook page for any updates. But yeah, a lot of movers and shakers, a lot of drivers making changes here, kind of mid-season. It's definitely not easy, especially when you're, not getting the results you want. But back again to the cost of racing, right? Like it costs a lot of money to be on these national tours, to be running, every single weekend. So if you're not performing, guys are getting the boot or just not getting along with the team. So definitely a lot of changes. But hopefully some of our guys that have been on the podcast find a new home and they kind of stay there and have great success. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cutthroat, isn't it? I mean, it's a game of musical chairs, and there's always somebody waiting in the wings, ready to take somebody else's ride. Did have a chance to hang out with Skylar G quite a bit over the weekend, and actually got to know, or at least have a couple of nice chats with Greg Wheeler, his new car owner, who I've never talked to or met before, and really, really nice guy, and a former racer himself. He had some really cool stories of racing non-wing and midgets and stuff back in the 70s and 80s, and yeah, it was really cool to chat with him at Williams Grove. So yeah, like you said, it's just it never stops. It seems like every other day there's somebody getting the boot or somebody replacing somebody else, and yeah, it's just when there's 15 or 16 cars on a national tour, man, that's just, as great as it is for car counts, it's just that much more added pressure for these drivers and teams to perform every week. And if you're not getting it done, it's there's going to be somebody waiting for you. So yeah, tough gig, man.
Seems like you're please. On a serious note, though, we got a busy week ahead, for both Shaun and I. I know for myself, I'll be leaving Wednesday to fly to Wisconsin, probably the farthest state that you can think of for Florida, but should be a fun time for my full-time job for Formula 4 at Road America. I've always wanted to go to Road America, so it's going to be definitely exciting to see it. Definitely a pretty place with the trees and the scenery, and going to be fun doing media stuff there. And I know Shaun's got a busy week ahead too. So go ahead and tell Shaun your busy schedule if you haven't seen it on Facebook already.
Yeah, it's going to be cool for you, man. Road America. I've never been. I've heard just amazing things about that part of the country. So enjoy it, man. Take a lot of photos. I know you will. Yeah, so Ohsweken Speedway kicks off Friday night, as we talked about earlier. Going to be a big season of racing. The forecast early on here looks great. So I hope everyone can come out to the track. Glenn Stiers has done a lot of. He moved his house from one part of the property to another part of the property in the off season. So they've undergone some big changes at Ohsweken. And then Flamboro on Saturday, as we've talked about, the 75 laps, $10,000 to win for the ISMA-MSS Supermodifieds. I know I've been keeping updates on the entry list to make everybody out there happy, to keep an updated list. Tyler Thompson, as we talked about earlier, two-time Classic winner. He's now entered, along with the likes of Brandon Bellinger, Jeff Abold, Mike Lichty, our buddy Camden Proud is going to be there. That's going to be really cool. Trent Stevens, Kyle Edwards, Mike Ordway, and of course our guest who's coming on after the break, Mike McVetta, who's the two-time and defending ISMA-MSS champion, who has raced Silver Crown. He's done midgets, indoor midgets. The guy's raced almost everything you can think of. He's run the Little 500, I believe, even. So he's got a really, really cool racing story and background to tell us all about. So let's get into it with Mike McVetta right after this. After the Scales is proudly presented by DJD Graphics. From commercial and personal vehicles to racing bikes and cars of all makes, models, and disciplines, DJD Graphics can fully customize your vehicle to suit your needs. For more information, contact Darren and visit his website at www.djdgraphics.com. Tell him Shaun and Jacob sent you to receive special rates. All right, and we are back with veteran Supermodified driver Mike McVetta, looking forward to his Flamboro Speedway debut. Mike, how's it going?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
We're good. We were just talking off camera, reminiscing a little bit. I got to meet Mike at Chili Bowl this past January. Had a blast. Mike, what was your experience like there?
From what I can remember, it was a great time. I mean, the Chili Bowl is more than a race; it's an event, right? So it's a pretty cool deal. My group of rejects will probably go out and take it in again one of these years.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. We got introduced to you. There was a mutual buddy of ours, Will, and you were walking around with a couple of other super modified guys. So it was that was a lot of fun. Just wasn't expected. So that was pretty cool. So you got Flamboro Speedway this weekend. Weather's looking good. I've seen some guys have been out testing already the last couple days, and reports are actually pretty good coming back. What are you expecting going into this little bull ring?
Not really sure. Certainly we watch videos, and they've got. I think it's Pedal Power has videos of every race, so you get a little bit of information there. Just looking at it, we've got a track here in Ohio called Midvale Speedway. It's like the same exact corner, but 50-foot longer or 50-foot shorter straightaways. So Flamboro will be a little more paperclippy, but kind of that same real tight corners. So, that's kind of the setup we're throwing at it and hoping for the best.
Now, Mike, I'm a little bit distracted by these cool pictures behind you in the background. So kind of walk us through, for the viewers that might not know about your background, how you got into super modified racing, because I definitely see some pretty cool pics with some old cars back there. So, yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, it all started for me back in the mid 90s. My dad was helping out on Dave Schulich Supermodified, and his son DJ, who I race with now, was running quarter midgets. So we went down. They do an indoor series here in Ohio, Columbus, and we watched one week, and then we went down for the next race and bought a car, and then it kind of really escalated from there. So I ran the quarter midget deal as a kid. From there, went to a pavement 305 sprint car. There was a small series that started at Sandusky Speedway, and then kind of traveled around Ohio, Michigan, a little bit of Indiana for a while. Did that. It's a car we had bought, and then I decided, oh, I'm an engineer. Let me build a sprint car. And we did that, and I don't remember what the stats were. We won like 7 of 12 races the first year with it. Got the championship, and that kind of spurred Dave Coyen to give me an offer to run one of his super modifieds. So we did that part-time the following year, ran the sprint car part-time as well. And after that year, they said, don't bring that sprint car back. So we had a decision. We could either, go 410 racing, which is really expensive in the sprint car, or buy a super modified. And that's kind of the path we went. Bought a super modified. It was an older car that was built by Tom Wisniewski back in 1990. We debuted that car in, I think it was 2013, and then I built my first super in 14. And it's kind of how it all started and where we got to where we are today.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to in this episode, Mike. There's a lot I want to talk to you about because you've been around super modifieds, like you said, for quite a while now. Man, it just seems like not long ago I was watching you race as a rookie.
Yeah.
But yeah, now you've won 2 of the last 3 ISMA-MSS championships. And for those who maybe aren't that familiar, because there will be a lot of people at Flamboro that don't see super modifieds a whole lot. ISMA and MSS, which was based out of mainly Ohio, have merged the last few years. So kind of boosts up the car counts, boosts up the competition. So talk a little bit about the series and how the last couple of years have kind of come together for you.
Yeah, it's it was. I'll say it was needed. We were both, struggling. 15, 17 cars. Sometimes down to 12, and bringing the 2 series together really brought that really strong foundation. Where I think we got 21 cars scheduled to go to Flamboro, which historically we struggle to get cars to go to Canada. Just with the border crossing, because it's honestly not the easiest thing to do in the world. So, that's an awesome car count. So, great to see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great series. So many great people, so many competitors. If you look through the list, I think you'll find half of the owners or drivers are in some sort of engineering field or aerospace field. So you got a lot of ideas floating around, and they kind of give us a box that we have to fit in, and all the cars are pretty different. There's a few builders, but for the most part, it's just independent guys. Sticking steel together in their garage and trying some different things and seeing if it works. So it really fits me as a person. Being an engineer and a guy that can, stick steel together, it just fits me who I am. And, my day job is engineering manager. So, I'm a paper pusher, PowerPoint engineer at work. So I need something to take care of my engineering tendencies outside of that.
Yeah, speaking of engineering, obviously the super modifieds are very technical. A lot goes into them. Talk to our viewers that might not know about, kind of the baseline of going through these cars to prepare them, because I feel like a lot of these, super modified races, just watching them on TV, because we don't have any super modified races down here in Florida, but just watching them, it seems like a lot of guys, end up having some problems, and there's a lot of guys falling out. So just getting through the race is just like the biggest thing if you want to have a good, consistent night.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're, pushing equipment to the limit, especially homemade equipment, you're going to see that attrition sneak in. I don't know the best way to describe them. Kind of sprint car, kind of Indy car, kind of way out there in left field. We've got, the big wings like a sprint car. We're direct drive, push to start like a sprint car. But, we take our engine and we make it a big block Chevy and we hang it off the left side of the car, to maximize that left side weight and try to corner better. So they're really unique. I'd like to think if, Indy just ran ovals, this is probably what they would build, maybe a rear engine version, but it's all about maximizing the equal loading on the tires. So when you go through the corner, you're throwing all the weight on the right side tires. So if you can start with a bunch of weight on the left side tires, you're going to do a better job of equalizing the load across the board.
Yeah, so you're talking about your engineering background. I mentioned to Jacob, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned that you were interested in coming on, telling him a little bit about you, that you work with NASA, and Jacob's response was, well, it's not rocket science.
It is. It can be.
Yeah, yeah, I'm definitely kidding. But with your engineer, like for the super modifieds, if you go through the years and look at the evolution of these cars, there's no form of race car that has undergone such a drastic change that a super modified has, even in my lifetime. Kind of when I guess mid to late 90s when I started watching them. How has the super modified kind of evolved the last few years that you've been in them? And more specifically, I guess, what is going into them that can maybe make them more affordable? You're talking about the car counts and that kind of thing as the cost of racing keeps going up. What are some of the maybe the things that you guys are kicking around as what you can do to bring the cost down a little bit?
Yeah, I think anytime I hear, oh, let's bring the cost down, I cringe a little bit because, I can't afford for anybody to save me any more money. Every time you make a change, it costs somebody or everybody money, right? So, we've got a really great engine package that they've got us on. They really haven't changed in, I'd say 30 years. It's a stock valve angle big block Chevy. They've got us on a gear roll, so, we can't, run the crap out of it and turn it more than it should. A lot of guys are getting 2 years out of a rebuild. And, you make your power on the cylinder heads, right? So I bought my cylinder heads used 10 years ago from Vic Miller, and, they're still awful competitive today. So I don't think you can say that on a 410 sprint car, which, I would argue is the comparative pavement car, high speed, high downforce, setting track records everywhere. It's a super modified or a sprint car on pavement. So, cost wise, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy that they're so expensive. I think the big thing is you got to be able to build them. It's not a sprint car, so you can't order it out of a catalog. And that's what kind of sets us out on that island. If you've got to pay somebody to custom machine or weld up each little piece, yeah, it's going to nickel and dime you. You're not calling beast and ordering a front axle. So I think that's really where the problem is. And, getting people that, have the ingenuity and mindset to build their own thing. I mean, you don't have to be an engineer to build race cars. I think Jim Bodnar is an excellent example. He built some badass race cars, and he's not an engineer by trade. He just he gets it, and he can see things in his mind, and builds a really nice race car that's really fast. So yeah, I like I said, I cringe when I hear save money, because I don't think that it's necessarily an issue. Danny Sewell and the whole ISMA team have done an awesome job with purses for us this year. We're racing for some really good money that helps offset some of those costs. But when I look at the other alternatives for going this fast, I don't think there's anything more affordable.
And Mike, I feel like a lot of people aren't fortunate enough to say that they're a race car driver. So kind of taking your experience and comparing between the sprint car and the super modified, like what's the biggest differences between the two? Because obviously there's a lot difference with the wings and the downforce, and not too many people can really feel what you feel inside the race car. So kind of walk us through briefly about the differences between the two.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, in a sprint car, picture yourself sitting in a school bus seat. That's how you sit in a sprint car, just like a chair. Whereas a super modified, it's like a recliner. I find myself waiting for a race ahead of us that's taken forever, dozing off in it, because it's just that comfortable. You're reclined back. That's probably the biggest difference. The other thing is, sprint cars, really roll around because they're so much higher. They have a higher center of gravity, so you get a lot more roll that you feel. The super modified, the center of gravity is so low that you don't really feel that as much. Those are probably the two biggest differences that I feel between the two.
And as I'm asking this question, Jacob, I'll maybe get you to bring up that photo of Mike's Oswego car, because I wanted to ask you, speaking of ingenuity and differences through the years, with the recent development of the back wing on the Oswego car, there's a shot of it there that you race at Labor Day Classic weekend. What's the difference like for when you're driving the ISMA-MSS with the wing on top versus the Oswego super modified with the wing at the back?
Yeah, it's take 90% of the downforce away is the difference. Especially in the last couple of years, they've really trimmed that rear wing out. They took the wicker bell off of it. They took a bunch of angle out of it. So it's really kind of on skates now, and kind of on the edge at all times, where, when we had the downforce, it was a little more controlled and a little more sure of what you were getting into as you drove into the corner. But overall, we run the same car for both. We run the same engine for both. We change shocks, settings, we change springs, and take the big wing off, put the little wing on. With the last changes they made to that rear wing, we now have to change the front wing too, because the front wing we run with the top wing ends up being a little too much. So it's not a deal breaker to make the changeover. It takes us a couple evenings to do. But yeah, it's definitely a whole different feeling, versus, pretty much, driving in at Oswego, especially with the wing. You drive into the corners until you see God, and then you lift a little bit, and then you're back on the wood. So you can't really do that whenever you got the little wing. It's more like lift just past the flag stand. So just a different technique. But cool deal. Love going up there and running with those guys.
Now I'm curious, Mike, to know if there's any maybe mentors or drivers that kind of took you under your wing or kind of mentored you throughout your racing career, like kind of a moment where you're like, wow, like I really want to do this, and this advice really took me this long to really realize like they were right, and kind of just a moment where you realize this is what you want to do and this is what you enjoy doing the most.
Yeah, the moment that really stands out to me is a fellow named Don Townsend that we race sprint cars with. You know, he was a big proponent helping me when I was first starting. He was a great dude that, you know, had raced forever. You know, I don't remember how old he was, in his late 60s, I think, running sprint cars on pavement still. But yeah, he was a great guy that really helped me along, getting my feet under me in the sprint car.
And you've done some pretty cool things outside of the super modified as a racer. I know you've done some USAC Silver Crown stuff. I got to my first Silver Crown race just probably 2 years ago. I saw them at IRP. And man, I'm hooked. Like, I love those things. Talk about your experience running that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a whole nother different animal. I mean, that thing kind of drives like a boat. You know, it's a real long wheelbase non-wing sprint car, basically, with less horsepower, and then, you know, put 70 gallons of fuel behind the rear axle, so the thing's got a whole bunch of weight swinging out the back. But you know, that was a really cool deal. I got hooked up with Dick Myers, he's been doing shocks for me since the sprint car days, so we've been good friends for quite a while. So really thankful for him for that opportunity. But yeah, whole different, you know, kind of driving style. You really can't, you know, drive the heck out of it like you can with a wing, whether it be a sprint car or a super modified. But you know, the some of the super modified traits still come into play. You know, all those races were 100 laps or 100 miles. So, you know, there was a lot of, you know, you got to save your stuff so you have something left at the end, which is, you know, real similar to what we do, you know, with and without the wing with the super.
And one of the questions I've been asking a lot of our drivers and guests on this podcast is, you know, one day everybody's going to hang up the steering wheel, hang up the helmet, you know, put the fire suit and all the trophies up on the shelf and call it a career. So, you know, one day down the road when you say you call it quits, what's just one thing you want people in the world of sprint car racing, super modifieds to remember Mike McVetta as?
You know, hopefully the guy that worked really hard and, you know, didn't spend $1 million and made it happen. You know, that's what I hope I'm known for, because that's certainly what we do. You know, we really bust our butts here to make it happen, and, you know, we don't have $1 million to spend. We don't have, you know, $1 million sponsors, so it's a lot of it is, you know, we do a lot of work for other people in the shop, and, you know, that's kind of what feeds our racing.
And I'm curious to ask you, kind of on a larger scale, where do you see super modified racing in 5 or 10 years? And I know as a fan, there's been a lot of talk about, and we touched on the dropping car counts between the two series. But you know, you go to Oswego for Classic Weekend, and it seems like the car counts are kind of coming back a little bit for some of these big events. You mentioned the purses going up for these ISMA-MSS races. And Camden Proud is a buddy of mine, and I've been talking to him about the flow racing numbers coming in from Oswego are really surprisingly good.
Yeah.
There's some really good young talented drivers. I know, like Tyler Thompson, who's going to be at Flamboro, who's won 2 classics already before his 21st birthday. Where do you see the sport heading, Mike?
I think it's in a good direction. You know, anytime you can infuse, you know, money, that's going to help the situation, right? Because I think, you know, across the board, you know, diesel's not going to get any cheaper getting to the track. Tires aren't going to get any cheaper. Methanol isn't going to get any cheaper. Engine parts aren't going to get any cheaper. So, you know, whether it be sponsors or racetracks, however you can get a good solid purse, and, you know, hats off to Oswego Speedway. You know, they upped their purse a ton for their weekly shows this year. You know, that's great to see. Probably a bit overdue, but, you know, that's what it's going to take. And, you know, I'm hopeful. We've got some really strong small block super series that are running crate motor based super modifieds on some narrower tires. You know, that's what I think hurt the Ohio area more than anything is we lost our feeder division when the 305 sprint car deal fell apart. So, you know, we've been kind of floundering with no new people coming into the sport. So, you know, combining is something we had to do to exist. And I think the feeder, whether it be the Outlaw Super Sprints or the Smack Series, Oswego's got their own 350s, so does Star Speedway. those are going to be the avenues. And we're already seeing it up east. They've had the 350s a lot longer than we have in the Midwest. You've got the Jeffrey Battles, the Bobby Timmons already that, have made the jump from small block to big block. So, I think that's what we need. And, that's a sign of strength for the future.
And I wanted to jump in real quick, Jacob. Didn't mean to interrupt if you got something, but we've talked a lot about super modified racing and how regional it is and how it's kind of been a niche form of racing. And I think like getting eyeballs on, even for a guy like Jacob who's in Florida and you can't physically get to a race, I think just getting eyeballs on super modifieds is a good thing. And getting for people to be able to tune in to Oswego, even though it doesn't have the wing stuff on it, but there will be times when you guys will be racing with the wing on at Oswego, it'll be on flow.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a big deal for super modified racing in general to get some more eyeballs on the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Flow's been instrumental in that at Oswego, and Berlin's always broadcast on Flow. I think Jennerstown is on Flow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's great. And we've been getting into some new markets too. We've been at Caraway Speedway the last couple of years for the North-South Shootout. That's not a normal super modified area, and whenever you roll in and you're 2 seconds faster than their fastest NASCAR modified, you turn some heads and you gain some fans. So those sorts of things are going to help build the super modifieds back up to where they once were.
Yeah, obviously racing takes an army, takes a lot of people, energy, money. So Mike, we appreciate your time, but we wanted to let you thank all the people that help you get to the racetrack and support your racing career and just all the support that goes into your racing program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a family deal here. Naturally, my mom and dad got me started, and my dad's sitting across from me at the shop bar here. We just finished bleeding brakes. My father-in-law is Doug Saunier, so he's been racing super modifieds forever. He does my tires every week. My buddy Kevin is here every week wrenching on this thing. It's just a whole group of people that are real good friends that make it happen week to week. And we have some really good supporters with Trustworks LLC. Perfection Fabricators have been with me since I think I was 16. They've always supported me. Dave Ennis, Parker Ennis, Karen Ennis, that family has been really great to me for years. And I'd be amiss if I didn't bring up the fans. We've got this group in Ohio called the Fourth Turn Crazies that are always yelling and yapping, having a great time cheering us on. Really the fans are what makes it possible for us to be at the racetrack every week. So can't thank them enough. And, hopefully we got a full grandstand coming up at Flamboro. I think it's the last race was the year I was born. So it's been quite a while. And yeah. I don't know if there's and definitely not a driver in the field that's raced there before. So it'll be interesting neutral playing ground.
Yeah, it's my dad, his first introduction to super modifieds was at Flamboro, and I've never seen them race there. And just for nostalgia, I know a lot of people that are really excited because, like I said, it is where a lot of people kind of got first introduced. So it's going to be an awesome show. I'm so excited. Before we let you go, Mike, we did want to wrap up with our DJD Gear rapid fire segment. I've got 5 questions for you that I'm going to fire off. And you just let me know the first answer that comes to mind.
All right, you got it.
All right. Who's your favorite super modified driver growing up?
Growing up, Doug's going to be mad when I say this, but it was Dave Schulich. That's
Fair enough.
my dad's how I ever got started.
Hey, we had some amazing Canadian super modified drivers when I was growing up, but I always gravitated towards Russ Wood. He was always my favorite. So,
yeah.
All right, next one. What's a race car that you haven't raced that you would love to try one time?
Honestly, anything on dirt. Probably Silver Crown on dirt. I think that would be a blast, to kind of make that full circle.
What's a racetrack you wish super modifieds raced at?
I wish we went to IRP every year, to be honest.
That would be good.
We ran, I think, 3 times there with MSS, and it was just an awesome place. Winchester is also on that list.
Oh,
We ran there once back in the must-see racing days. That definitely separated the men from the boys.
that would be nuts watching a super modified at Winchester. That would be crazy. What's your favorite sport to watch outside of racing?
Probably football. I hate to say it, but I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, being
Yeah.
from Northern Ohio. It's our year. I'll say it now.
Hey, I'm a
We're going to the
Bills
Super
fan.
Bowl.
It's relatable, man. It's like, well, we'll get them next year.
Yeah, well, you guys at least get close.
Yeah, hope hurts though, man.
Oh, it does.
And last one for you, and maybe we'll find this out in person on Saturday. What's your go-to post-race beverage?
Well, I start off with a victory fuel because I need to get some electrolytes in me before I start smashing bush lights.
That's fair enough, man. We'll have some on ice for you when you climb out of the car on Saturday. Can't wait, Mike. Um, Fans, get your asses to Flamboro on Saturday. It's going to be a great show. 10,000 to win, 75 laps. Let's pack the stands to make sure that Mike and all the other drivers can come back next year and for many years to come. Mike, we really appreciate your time and good luck this weekend.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Mike.